Yo, Peter, we live or?
Yes, we are recording now.
All right, who wants to be Peter today?
I was just gonna say, you know what? We've actually made it full circle, basically.
Yeah,
McKinnley, have you been Peter?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Peter gets to be Peter this time.
I think I've been Peter.
Well, last time we had Joe be Peter.
Right.
Okay, no, then yeah, no, it would still be McKinnley than me.
Oh, McKinnley gets
McKinnley, would you like to be Peter today?
Even though this was my idea. This episode was pretty much my idea.
Do you want to be Peter? Do you want to be yourself today, Peter?
Because I'm not sure how we're gonna. Yeah, because I'm not sure about the topic. I know we're doing 3x3.
And it would be like, okay, actual Peter, explain this. It's your idea.
Okay.
That'll work. All right, shall we get started? I'm ready.
I'm redacted.
I'm ready.
Are you recording already? Come on. Awesome. I'm still redacted.
What is wrong with you people? Huh?
This is LPD Dubuque, Peter of the Gloving Paradigm, and I am going to be passing this to the real Peter because I don't know what I'm talking about.
Alright,
Peter
hello
Prime.
everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to yet another episode of Gloving Table Talks, where, of course, Gloving Paradigm presents this lovely little podcast where we get four glovers talking about gloving things. I am a glover.
Hello.
These are the other glovers, as you can
Hello.
plainly see. And in today's episode, we're going to be doing something I've been wanting to do for a while now, and it is known as a 3x3. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain to you what a 3x3 is, and then we're going to present all of our 3x3s. And then we're going to break down what is going on in said 3x3s. So, basically, what a 3x3 is this little trend thing that I've seen artists on Instagram do. I've seen podcasters like Trash Taste do to kind of describe their tastes in whatever subject matter is pertaining to it. So they did something like their taste in anime, their taste in manga, their taste in music, their taste in movies. In this particular case, what we're doing with our 3x3s is showing our past, current, and future influences that make up our personal gloving style. Of course, I will certainly say it was actually pretty fun putting this all together. I'm actually really excited to show everybody what I put together, because this is one of those things that's just like, it was really fun to do. So, gentlemen, do you guys have anything to say before, any honorable mentions you want to mention before we start watching these? Or
My honorable mention is going to be Jess. He wasn't on my 3x3, not because I don't love his style, 'cause I do love his style, but it was really more of his take on his persona and the way he promoted himself and really set that standard of the glover, you know, at least in my opinion, of one way to go about it in a big extra way that's, you know, taking it that extra mile that I feel like some people are scared to do.
Oh, actually, I do have an honorable mention, and that would be Jason Noon. I didn't put him in there, but I'd be hanging out with him a lot, and his style definitely influences mine, just because I hang out with him as much as I do. But I didn't really have any shows to put on my 3x3 of his, mostly because I'm usually the one recording his shows, so I have to see it like 1,000 times already. But yeah, that's my honorable mention. The homie.
Jason Newwood.
Alright,
Noonie.
dude, so we got Jess, we got no one. Josh, you got any?
I got too many to count. It'd be like a freaking Patreon list.
Yeah, I'm on that list.
Finger Circus, Status
But-
Silver.
I would say just, if anything, just the entirety of the DMV community. Just those
Yeah.
guys helped me like shape what I want out of gloving and like what's important to me and what I'm looking for. So
You heard it.
I
Dustin
would-
Chow's on that list.
Right. I would have to say for me personally, it needs to be remarked if I didn't say Mez, because I've followed him since he exploded, and actually having that segment of representation for the Hawaiian community, because I remember watching the Hawaiian community come into the gloving scene and actually really tear it up and really carved out a niche for them on their own, and that was something that was really, really cool to see. So definitely gotta put that out there. If I had to say for something that's more new, I'm going to say Duck, just because I gotta give a shout out to the Australian team, because they're out there and they make some amazing videos. They need to make more videos. That's all I'm saying. Australian glovers, make more videos.
Here.
So
Right. But yeah, so I think we should just get right into this, because it's going to be a lot of breakdowns, a lot of talking about the things that we're going to be seeing. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and present mine first. So it's a good example and benchmark of where I want to see other people in the community actually make their own and show off their own version of a 3x3.
I think that's a good idea, Peter Prime.
I mean, it'd be really cool to see like what Jess would put on his 3x3. I think it'd be really cool to see what Starlight would put, or even Trump, or even even some of the old heads, like or see what old school people would put in their category as like the old heads that inspired them and stuff like that. I think it'd be just real cool to see.
I would want to see Seaway's 3x3.
That would be really cool to see. I definitely agree on that one. But so starting off, we're starting this from going from left to right, top to bottom, just for the viewing audience to understand. So starting with the top left, we have Skittles. This is his at Beyond Wonderland 2010 video. This is like the quintessential Skittles video. Like anyone who is an old head knows this video, and I think any old head who is a proud old head like me, it would be a great shame, and I would say it's sacrilegious to not have this in your 3x3, just because so many people have studied this video to understand not only basic gloving but impacting, and that actually really shows that influence, and definitely it represents the TNT influence in me. The second one, this one is probably my personal favorite out of all of his videos, but literally you can put any of Musk's videos and it'll definitely represent that entire aesthetic of what he does in his shows. You definitely see it in mine. But this is his Freshly Squeezed 2010 light show video. I still watch this one every now and then when I need to try to like re-inspire myself in what I want to do with my style. And I actually just recently learned how to do his little finger thing. That makes total sense now.
do a lot of those moves in shows.
Right, you can definitely like watch this video and you're just like, okay, a lot of the moves that he does in here, I definitely see you throw. Yeah, that's definitely
Your weight cutting to your pass throughs, and yeah.
I don't know if you guys noticed, but I just noticed for the first time. It's like Musk is doing some like 45 tech. Like
Kind
he's
of,
like
yeah.
not just like doing this, but he's like going over here. I know it's not like as advanced as what like 45 grids are now, but it's still pretty neat to see.
Oh yeah.
The early
Interpretation.
stages.
Yeah, definitely proof of concepts. We're definitely in the early days.
Yeah, you do this all the time, Peter.
Yes, exactly. And that's definitely evocative of the TNT aesthetic that they really cultivated over the years. I really feel like to a lot of people, TNT was a huge foundational like understanding of gloving, because that was a team as a collective they followed, not just one or two people. Because a lot of people on TNT you can slap in here and it would still make sense.
Up some names on the first two parts of your list that I haven't seen in a long time.
Right? I mean, the most recent one I've seen of Musk was, I think, 2016. I think there might have been one from 2017. I'm not sure. But one of my personal favorite ones that I still like watching to this day, because it's just a beautiful display of what I consider the epitome of flow, is Aku, which is my top right one. This is my favorite video of his that Amazing Lights did for a feature, and it's just a custom glove set that he has from the Matrixes, and he's using the the pulse flash pattern on his index and ring, and then he's just using regular dots on his thumbs, middles, and pinkies. But this video is literally just like non-stop, perfectly aligned with the music, and it just constantly goes from beginning to end, never ending. And it's just, it all makes sense. There's so much intentionality to it. It is literally, you watch this and you can definitely see when I'm actually like showing my influence in that in my other shows, like where things are just perfectly timed with the song. It's because of this video. When it comes to the middle section, this is what like you can definitely see I currently throw very often, or as I feel like it's just is what's always on the forefront of my mind. So the middle left is SS Buddha. This is his Dreamcasters feature video that he did for Amazing Lights. Okay, so this one has two different meanings. One is definitely his style. I definitely try to incorporate his pinch techniques, his dials, digits. Definitely, this is where a lot of my digital work comes from. Is definitely from where Buddha definitely does a lot of his things. The second point on his video is his configuration of his lights. So it goes color high, color low, color high, 4 blanks all the way to the end, right? And it's on regular strobe. I really like this in person because it stutters just enough where you can move fast and you don't really lose anything. And then you can stay really slow and really have this cool fluttering effect. I love this setup. This has been like my go-to setup anytime I don't really have a thought of like what I want to make out of a glove set. And I just want to make colors with it. This is usually the go-to configuration I want to go with. That isn't...
What pattern is that?
Regular strobe.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it looks, for how many blanks it has, it looks really, really nice.
Yeah, I love this. I love this thing, especially when you start doing a lot of whips and liquid-based flow techniques. You definitely see how it breaks up, and it leaves this really cool color hidden effect that you don't see until you move fast enough, and it actually pops out. And I really, really like that. So that's the main reason why that one's there. It's like without this you wouldn't make any sense of my style, because a lot of my techniques is based off of this configuration. Now the middle one is Laughter. I don't know if you guys actually have seen this feature video from Amazing Lights, but this one, I remember when this one came out, I watched it constantly. And it's because I love this whole idea that he did with one pinky and one thumb being the same thing and everything else being another set. So this is what really inspired my idea of unconventional configurations with glove sets. You know, you can even say that with Musk's video, because if you watch, he has strobes on his index, middle, and rings, and his pinkies are actually ribbons. So that was actually my first understanding of like mixing flash patterns. Yeah. And it looks really, really cool when you actually watch the video in full. But with Laughters, definitely I feel like his musicality, but also like emphasizing his movements with the configuration of his glove set was another massive point on that. And that's where I think you can probably put Mez here, because Mez kind of did the same thing, but that's also with his technical style with clocking. So if I had to change out one, yeah, Laughter would come out for Mez. So middle right is Yo Melon. Very, very popular, especially from a lot of people from like the old school to new school mentalities. He was really, really popular during the 2014-2015 era. This is where my idea of phasing really took off, and understanding by seeing how there's different variations. One point I would say for Yo Melon is that you could probably put Vision Quest there as well if you wanted to like understand a form of phasing, because he was the one that really made me understand like pulsar phasing, where you can actually just click all 10 lights all at once and change to the next set and literally just go through that fashion. But I actually just really, really enjoy Yo Melon's style, and the idea of him just like, hey, changing up the configuration of your colors on your fingers can make a world of difference of what your show presents. So I think that's probably the best reason why it's there. Okay.
You don't see anybody else doing it but you.
Now people that I know.
Well, here's the funny thing. The funny thing is that I started doing this and trying to bring a much more technical application to it, and it's just trying to understand toggle sequencing, because it's a completely different dynamic. You have to understand that it's not a part of gloving, but it's integral to gloving if you want to make it work. That's why you usually see when people do mode changes, they actually just do a lot of liquid based stuff because it's really easy to hide. But now we're having people take it to this next level where, like, you watch Alex Chavez's videos and he's actually like clicking the lights in front of the viewers to actually change the configurations to highlight his different digital work, which is great. But I don't think he's understanding his understanding of toggle sequencing and how to toggle his clicks together to set up the configuration that he can go into the next set that he wants to do. I will certainly tell you, it took me a few months to actually figure out how I wanted to do it properly. Not only that, but if I wanted to set up where everything was symmetrical to be asymmetrical or in reverse or mirrored effect, I guess, I had to learn a completely different understanding of clicking my lights and actually switching between hands as I go down a chain. So if it wasn't for Melon though, I don't think that would still be a thing, and having that inspiration for it. So bottom 3, this is where I don't have this in my show, and there are things in these shows that I want in my shows. So bottom left is Elijah Smith. I actually really like his technical application on musicality. He's able to demonstrate how he's able to learn new concepts and still make sense with it in his musicality, and it's something that I feel like I have sometimes, but sometimes I don't. But he's very consistent with it no matter what. So the other thing is, well, he has a certain like flail combo that he does that kind of butterflies itself, and it's just absolutely beautiful. And I definitely want that on my show. I want that so bad.
Just do it, dude.
Right? I mean, it's so hard for me to understand it. And I'm like, I'm going to figure this out, but it completely breaks my brain sometimes. So the bottom middle is BMO, and I just want to be able to make the circles that he makes. He has no wrists, and he's able to bring a level of showmanship that I want in my show. I mean, this is his Whip Olympics round 2 video, I believe. I think it was round 2 when he pretty much broke the chat. Like everybody, yeah, everybody went nuts on his show. So it was really cool to see. And but yeah, the man has no wrist, just like Megasloth, and I want to be able to make circles like that.
You want no wrists?
Yeah. Now, for my bottom right, this one's gonna be very interesting because this is something I feel like a lot of people don't see from this particular glover. But from Snorlax, I absolutely love his rails. His liquid rails are actually a level that I don't think people understand are actually good. But to me, they're like they're nearly perfect for me, and it's just like I want to be able to pull that off, because not only is he able to actually like go across his chest really cleanly, but he's able to bring it up to the front and bring it back. Like he learned to like slingshot it perfectly and still make sense as a liquid rail rather than just a liquid fold. And so I don't know how he does it, but yeah, that's one of the main things I definitely want to get. And overall, I just absolutely like his style. He definitely has a very strong, steep understanding within impacting foundation movesets, which does translate pretty well to some of his morphing aesthetic. When he actually really tries to do morphing, he actually can pull it off. Not all the time, but he when he gets it, he holds it for a good while. But I definitely think impacting is actually helping him really get that understanding to what morphing is trying to do as well. Because he's learning the thumb things, but he's also learning what he needs to do with the hands. And that's where I think he's getting his understanding of morphing in. And that is pretty much it. That is my 3x3.
Thank you, Peter Prime.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Alpha Peter.
Alpha Peter. Yeah, I think this is cool because, if anything, like, looking at this, it definitely shows a lot about not only your influences and like what you're going for with your style, but also like I feel like it's a really good indicator of like personality and how you approach light shows, right? Because like, you know,
Yeah.
I think Dustin and I talked about this. I think we all talked about this once, where you can definitely get an understanding of someone much better when they give you a light show. Like you kind of like get a sense for their personality and a sense for like who they are when you trade. And I think that's what's I'm most excited about. Like,
can we do
sharing
mine
things.
next? Because mine is so like, duh.
I
know
was
what
just
mean?
gonna say, if you want, we can just go down the chain because technically,
Yeah.
if we go by alphabetical order, yours next.
Yes, redacted
Yeah.
Peter. Show us.
Oh man.
So my 3x3, my bottom three is less of like what I aspire to have in the future. It's more of a what I just enjoy watching in general. And me and Peter kind of talked about it, where it's like he's saying like it could also be a kind of like your subconscious saying like what you want is like this kind of presentation, and I think that's true for most of these videos, if not all of these videos anyway. Like so from the top, the Creepa rushing back video, this was one of the first one of the first shows that I saw when I first got into gloving back in 2020. And I just loved how like crisp everything was. And it's like, if anything, the foundational moves behind it aren't what I look at. It's more of how all the movements are. And I think that's the common trend among all of these videos, is that it's all about like how crisp the movements are and how just, I don't know, just how aesthetically pleasing it is for me. And I guess that's like where my style wants to be. The next one with the video that Tuna has, this one specifically a show that he did to a song titled Lust by Where's Alex. People tend to say that a lot, like my style is very similar to Tuna's, and I guess like that just happens because like I looked up to him a lot for like my liquid influence, and I guess that just kind of bleeds into my overall style. Flosin, his is like the ultimate combination of like technique, presentation, just overall like everything about it is like, I feel like something that has the most influence on my style. That's why he's put there twice. Just the amount of patience. If we're being honest, I put Steve there because I wanted to be a dickhead and fanboy over Steve. Steve, if you watch this, I don't actually fucking like you, bro. No, I'm kidding. No, Steve, if anything, it's like I recently started trying to pick up platforming, and I guess I'm using his progress on it as a basis for mine, because it's easier for me to start somewhere small and work my way up instead of watch someone who's like clearly advanced in it and try to learn from that. Just kind of how my learning process goes.
Well, I was gonna say Steve's in where is Steve? Is he in California or is he in Texas?
He's in California.
Okay, so yeah, I would certainly say it's kind of interesting that you have Steve here, because to me it's like, yeah, Steve is definitely somebody you would think of when it comes to platforming, but it's just like I feel like he's like the next wave of platforming right now. You know what I mean?
He is.
GM
Honestly,
like it's baby in my eyes.
for Steve, what I would like, if I had to pick any concept, platforming is not the first thing that I would think of when I think of Steve. I wouldn't even like, I would think of just like strictly foundation, right? Like I've talked to Steve about this before, and it's like, you know, a majority of his shows is just like being clean. So his move pool for a long time was pretty simple: finger rolls, whips, liquids, and then working in tech here and there and building it up as he goes. And there's something really, I guess, cool to me that like someone can be so good because they focused on all of their foundations first without doing all the flashy stuff, and then now he can work on the flashy stuff because he has the foundation to back it all up.
I mean, the way I kind of look at Steve, for a good example, is somebody who can literally do a show that's nothing but foundations and it makes complete sense. Very much like
Absolutely.
how Liquid is, because Liquid is definitely somebody who does nothing but pure foundations, and it's one of the nicest shows that I always just am enjoying to watch.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
I see we got Steamboy over here.
Yeah,
That
this
dork.
this video had to be there because in terms of like videos or people that I'm currently like getting influence from, like Josh has definitely been one of the biggest influences there anyway. And you know, I was sitting behind the camera when he recorded that, and that weekend there was a lot that I had learned as well as am still working on from that weekend. But this video helps me, I guess, helps remind me of it all so that I can start processing it in my head even further.
Yeah, I definitely see what you
But,
mean by that. And
yeah.
I remember this video coming out and this one exploding. Like, this one got so many hits on GL. So I definitely see why
He didn't
this
even
is there.
believe me. He didn't believe me. He said it wasn't going to be that great. No, you're lying. You're stupid. I am never wrong. If I say that I'm right, I'm fucking right.
Yeah, you were.
Redacted. The bottom three are more of like personal favorites, right? Like I just enjoy them. The Technic Angel bit show, dude. Like this shit's is disgusting. Everything that you want in a show. And I mean, I would say that in terms of shows that I've watched, like at least in the double digit amounts, that one definitely made it up there really fast. Like the first time I saw it, it was already up there. Like the Creepa show, that one obviously I've watched well over 30 times because that was the first show that I like really watched and like resonated with. The next video we have is 30K's video. That one's there for personal reasons. I love Ricky. He's the homie. I had put out like a little call out challenge to try and get people to interact more, be a little more active and everything. And Ricky submitted this. And I don't know. If anyone hasn't gotten the opportunity to watch it, I recommend you should. It's quite the journey. And then
Also, let the record show that relish are indeed pickles.
Oh my god. Yeah, quick context on that. Ricky didn't know that relish was just pickles ground up. And it hurt because he hates pickles but he loves relish. But now he hates relish.
Why?
Yeah.
You crushed this man's dreams. You just made him more jaded to the world.
It was on accident. And then BMO's video, this one was actually also submitted for that same challenge. And I mean, how could you not like a show from BMO? Like, how could you not?
It's like kicking puppies. You just don't do it.
Yeah, that's like kicking puppies, dude.
You just don't do it.
No, you just see the BMO show and you enjoy it.
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
That's it.
See, I think it's funny how you and I kind of put BMO in the same. I think we put them in the same area.
We put them in the same area, but for different reasons.
Yeah.
Yours are like I don't necessarily aspire to have things that BMO does, right? I don't necessarily aspire to have anything that he does in my arsenal, right? Because again, the difference between it all is like a lot of my 3x3 is about like the how, you know, like the only one that really is like the only ones that are technique oriented, I would say is like Steve, Tuna, and Steamboy. Like the rest of it is less less like actual concepts and more of like how your presentation is.
Yeah,
a lot of it is
exactly
just
where I was saying,
presentation.
like, it's more of the how they present their overall style and their overall show is like something you would want to get to, because their presentation, like, it's so hard to this day to sit here and say that somebody can actually beat Puppet in terms of presentation, because that man presented everything with
That man
such
literally
high class.
clipped the bottom and top of his videos on purpose to make it seem more like a movie. Extra. That shit extra. Yeah, I noticed it, Kevin. If you ever watched this, I noticed it. I know a lot of other people did, but I noticed it.
I mean, I know early on in my podcasting career for Gloving, he did like my page, so he knows of this, and I certainly hope he still like continues to listen and watch, because
Well,
it wouldn't hurt to have you as a
I'm gonna
guest.
say Kevin, Genshin Impact sucks. That's all.
No, I'm glad you changed it up a little bit for yours, because, I mean, Dustin, you and I have talked about this, that like, just because it's not something you want in your style doesn't mean that the style itself shouldn't exist. Like it's the difference between being a critic and a connoisseur. Like sometimes
I'm a connoisseur.
Exactly.
I mean, Josh, I'll even say, not even trying to spoil any of what you put on yours, but you took the challenge to the level I was hoping to see, that I wasn't expecting, but I'm glad that you did, because the idea was to really show like what influences and like where do you draw your inspirations from, and you went even farther outside the box of just gloving. You actually found other things to inspire what you have incorporated in your show. So without spoiling it, that's something I was really happy to see, because that was the idea. It was like, yeah, it's probably not gloving, but this is something I want gloving to have.
I'm special.
Yes, I'm special.
I appreciate it, Peter.
All right. So let's see. That was all. It's I believe it's Mckinnley's next. So Starstream TuT.
Starstream Peter.
I'm gonna rejoin real quick because my thing's freezing. One sec.
Okay.
So we
I
have
like the spread already.
We have Alpha Peter, and then Redacted Peter.
Okay, we're good.
We got Starstream Peter, and then we got Steamed Peter.
No way! Wait, Greg Irwin was okay. I was gonna. No way, he was.
Absolutely, way back when I started back in like 2010.
Yo, I didn't even know
Why
that.
is this not playing?
Yeah, this is it. So I took mine in a more literal fashion. This is what I watched, and then I grew from. I kind of had like a moment. Even then, Merlin and Munch could have been switched. They kind of like found them at the same time, because like I didn't. As at the same time that I found that Wrath show is about the same time that I joined GL. So the top left, for that first Munch video, this was literally, other than the gummy video, it's what got me watching gloving over and over and over again. So in that first video, what's really cool that a lot of people weren't really messing with back then is he was turning them all the way on and off, and then he also had the thumbs were off the whole time, but they weren't impacting. They were just a hyper strobe flash pattern, and it was that impacting feel, like, oh shit, there's a new mode. Because back then
he's strobing.
Yeah, he was just strobing, but it was a surprise strobe. And back then, impacting, it was there, but unless you were like really reading in the forums, you didn't really know. You kind of just, all right, there's people who do that, and there's people who do this, and there's people who do circles.
Oh my!
And stacks.
I couldn't imagine back then. It's like, are you, in terms of the gloving community, it's like, so are you a stacker or are you a circler?
Well, dude, and that's if you had a community. I didn't really have one. I just had me and my weird theories. So I watched Munch. I studied how he'd do things, and then because I got my first pair of gloves from a classmate who gifted it to me on my birthday. Nice. They were just one mode switches. They were E-dots. Back then, you had to pay extra to get thumbs, so I only had 8 lights.
You had to pay.
You didn't know that? Yeah, back then, glove sets came by default with 8 lights, and thumbs were considered like an accessory.
Imagine paying like
You know what?
$30-$40 for 8 lights.
You know what? That makes sense
That were one
given
mode.
the style, though, right? That makes sense because at its infancy, right, it was just glow sticking with fingers.
Yes, it
At
was
its
it was
infancy.
liquid and glow sticking combined.
Yeah. So at its infancy, right, like your thumbs were more so like
They were just in the way. Like,
is
alright, dude, what are you gonna do with
decorative
this?
if anything.
Yeah, just get them out of the way. Just focus on this.
Yo,
That's
thumbs
how it was
that'd be
back then.
dang, that'd be extra. Nah.
So Munch, he had that whole magician act from the start, because he had that conjuring, but he actually didn't have his lights on bottom yet. He still had them on top, but he's still doing it. Then that Gregor Irwin video, I just happened to see it was featured, and then from then I went and looked into who he was.
And now you're buddies with him.
Yeah, dude, he's my homie. I love Greg. Greg's great. I actually talked to him. I was like, hey, you ever want to hop in here?
Yeah, we should get him in here. That'd be really
That's what
cool.
I'm saying.
I would definitely love to have him on here just because, in a weird way, he did influence the community. It's just
Oh no,
by
he
proxy.
absolutely. I remember someone saying that it was like before. I can't remember who was telling this story, but it was something along the lines. I think Dusty was telling the story, where it's like his friend, before like a boss, his friend watched a bunch of Greg Irwin videos and just did it.
Yeah, I guess that was the thing. Is he defined the moves way before anyone else did. Like, finger roll, this is a finger wave.
Yeah, that's a finger wave.
Yeah, and the roll is that.
Or the other thing for digital liquid,
I would even say that with this having more of that finger, I'd still say it's just moving more of the wrist.
You could also say
the wave.
You could also say he kind of was a precursor to like reds and blues,
Yeah.
Because he did it with just the gloves.
Mhm.
For the contrast and understanding and keeping it simple. He was always like, all right, just keep the background role playing so the focus is on the hands. And he was all pure technique, and he talked about this the other day. He knows he's not the quote unquote flowiest. He's more flow when it comes to contact juggling, and he's very aware. That's because
I didn't know he did that.
Yep. Oh yeah, he's all about the big ball.
with the
Both
ball.
the Chinese medicine balls and the big globe. And whenever he approaches his gloving or finger shows, he actually essentially choreographs it. That's how he thinks about it. He actually has like a full-on routine.
He is like the ground zero of technique.
And it's just pure his technique that he's built on and how he goes about it. He knows he could look in the other things. I actually got him to do some clusters, so we're gonna see if he works that in. Yes, I'm like,
Yo,
he's doing 6.
I wish this thing was playing now so I can see this Greg Irwin show.
So you can see a lot of the influence in the way I do some movements. So you can see in that Munch show, see how it's just one light, and then he also plays like a little showmanship. He pretends it's a cigarette. He does like this little finger roll, and he goes up into his mouth. Right here, flick.
Oh, that was cool.
Yeah, just so simple. And then he turns them all on, kills it. Greg, all about the compressions, the dials, the creatures, the splits,
the pass-throughs.
And his speed and accuracy. People were doing him, and they were keeping him just straight. He was straight up going like diagonal and like changing that up. No one was doing a zigzag.
In terms of technique, I don't know who could like beat Greg if it's like strictly a thing based off of technique, right? Not that no one could beat him. I feel like he's got quite
his coordination is like Yoda.
That's what I'm saying, dude. Like if you take things out that, the whole essence of gloving thing where there's like showmanship and steez and all that other stuff, if it's just pure technique, like that's a tough opponent. That's a tough. Yo, he should have been in the tech games. He would have won.
He was almost a judge for KC.
I didn't know that.
He was almost a guest judge. It's timing. Moving on to J-Funk. This show right here is probably the foundation for a majority of my finger tutting when I first began. That show right there, I'm not even sure where it was from. I think it was a battle of sorts, because it says J Funky versus Clado, and he is in GL. J Funk is Julian Daniels, but I'm not sure where or who was battling. But this thing got so many views and was like one of the biggest finger tutting videos on YouTube at the time. And just his digital work and the way he approaches it, very robotic, was very aesthetic for me. And for my style and how I developed it, I was always looking at, dude, who's doing the shit that it's like it looks impossible to do at the time, and like who is mind blowing. Which brought me to Tiny, because then I found out that he taught him, and you can see I still to this day do a lot of those inner working things, and no one else messes with that.
That dude's crazy.
I think a lot
thought
of
it
it
was funny.
is misunderstood too. But he's also he's not so much about the internet scene. He's about real life. He's like, hey, let's bring it to the streets. You know?
Yeah.
I thought it was just funny when you sent me your list so I can compile it together into the presentation. When I saw Tiny Love, I was like, holy crap, I haven't thought about this dude in so long. And I remember when I was starting out, I had friends showing him some of his videos. And I was just like, yeah, this is something I want to aspire to. I want to get like this crazy and good and be like all technical and stuff. But you kind of see where I actually like gravitated towards within gloving itself. So
I've seen some of the Dark Matter squad battles, dude. Tiny Love goes hard in those battles.
Yeah, dude, he's like making his way onto the floor, and as he's on the floor, he's like
he's
crawling on his knees as he's going backwards, face mask, and he lifts himself
Full
up.
character mode, man.
Yeah, it's nutty.
Does not hold back. Have you seen the one versus CTUT?
I feel like I did see that one. I think
Pretty
that
wild.
is the one I am talking about.
He had the Predator mask.
Yeah, the Predator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing, because he invented face tutting. So that was that. He originated a lot of those ideas from characters like him. He has like this one that's like this. He actually got that from Darth Vader.
Nice.
You know, stuff like that has literal inspiration. Now, Shifted Shapes, this next guy, he was probably my first real, like, not finger tutter, but tutter that really gave me influence. Not many people know about this guy. This clip was probably from like 2008, 2007, but it got taken down for many years and only recently got put up like 3 or 4 years ago. So I just want to make sure this gets spread out, because this guy pretty much set up a majority of the foundation for people in general. There was no other. I think his was the first tutting video online.
Huh.
Really?
Yes, which is why you got all those Egyptian type things and the old school pop-in.
and he was actually using his legs to actually like show other angles and not just using his arms,
he
like
tuts with
he
his
was
legs.
like he was showing that this can be a full body incorporation of shapes and angles. Yeah.
Jesus.
Called
I remember
fixed-
seeing
it's
that
called
video
fixed point,
once.
Fixed line. It's an old video. And then Merlin and Munch again. Both of those videos, again, they can go back and forth in placement. I would say I probably found the Munch one on YouTube whenever I was trying to get back in. Like, I was never not in gloving, but I was trying to just get more invested in what would be the next evolution of it, especially because of the lack of resources at the time. And this show pretty much blew my mind in the sense that it wasn't until like a year later that I realized he switched lights throughout the show. Like, he had his lights on top at the beginning, and then halfway he puts them on bottom, and it just blew my mind. Did not know how he did it, and I didn't know if it was like edited or rehearsed. Cause like there's a moment he puts his hands down, I'm like, oh, it's a jump cut. Nah, no jump cut.
Wow.
No, he actually like went like this, flung, so gravity took him forward,
on fire.
and then he went like this to push them back underneath.
Wow.
I remember. I don't even think that video is up anymore, but I remember there was like a vlog video of sorts where he actually talked about that, And he's like, oh yeah, I just want like this to get the gravity to do it, and then I just want like that, because then you see him do it in the video, and then he starts doing that.
That's nutty.
Yo, wait, that's
Yeah,
abstract.
but actually, if you look, he's about to do it. Watch. Yeah, because he starts up and does that as a setup before he ever does it, just to get you like not convinced that it's just a move.
Yeah,
And
he's
doing his little tech sequence, keeping you distracted or focused on the top, doing some tutting. I showed you the thumbs. Yeah, you see they do that. Cool. We're gonna keep doing the thing. Music's building up, and then as he's building up, he's about to catch his hands on fire, flag it up. Ah, they're on fire! Oh my god! Nope, I'm actually switching them. And then he goes back.
That's genius.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so
That's-
for me, I would certainly say Munch definitely had an influence on teaching me how to save my misclicks. Save like those stumbles, and how to save myself from that by making it look intentional. So, yeah.
Yeah, it really
definitely
shows
thought
you
that was
how
cool.
much thought was put in from the start.
Yeah.
And Merlin, found him when I was looking through GL, and I just wanted to see if the idea had been done, and I just typed in conjure packing. And him and this last guy, Pagliacci, are the only, I would say Munch too, but he didn't really call it that. He was just gloving, But no one else has really attempted the idea to its fullest content. Like, people, they'll just impact, they'll just conjure, and I feel like there is a blend that can be done, but people are just scared to drill it. Like, if you go look at this guy's stuff, he didn't get a lot of support. He really didn't, and I feel like he needs a lot more than he got.
See, this is why I wanted to do the 3x3 so we can get this out there.
Yeah, because he deleted his YouTube, everything.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm just like, this can't be forgotten. I'm sorry, but I learned this stuff from Merlin, and I want to keep that known. Because that wizard. One thing that was really sad whenever I looked into him, I messaged him a couple times, just to let him know that he inspired me, and he kind of lost a lot of it because of his girlfriend had passed away. Yeah, and she was the one who got him into conjuring. He always wanted a teacher. He never got a chance to, so he made some tutorials on his Facebook. But yeah, he so creative. I think this video was actually only 8 or 7 months into conjure packing, him attempting it.
Oh.
And then he did another video a year in, and then did like one like 5 months after that, and he kind of just stopped. And this was back in like 2017, 2016.
Oh wow.
He's on Impact Pals, and he's on Soon.
So he was on
And
an impacting team and a conjuring team.
And his big influence was Munch. That's why he would do the Soon November.
Yeah.
And then Corduroy, this man. I don't think there's not too many impactors who have the steez that Corduroy has. That patience and very deliberate, intentional movements the whole time. He'll even break it down really slowly for you and still surprise you. I really love his shows. It's one of those, like, I first when he won the first Lights On, I originally was with everyone and thinking that Puppet kind of won, but going back and watching it, I disagree. I think Corduroy definitely took it.
There was
I
a
feel like
level
what
of
it was
nuance
is
with
that
this show
whole-
that people didn't catch on at first. You had
Yeah, they
to
didn't
watch it
catch
over
on.
and over again to find it.
Yeah, because like it's a lot more technical than people give credit for, especially at the time. Because it was just impacting was just so misunderstood.
Oh yeah, I
And
definitely agree.
Pagliacci, this guy, not many people know this guy's name.
Never seen that name.
Exactly.
Neither did I, and that's why I was just like, oh.
Yep. So he is on Soon. And this guy also conjure packs. And what was so special about this show is I like that he gave his thumbs purpose to turn into his tracers, which are purple. And then with the background and the lighting, if you notice when it's blue, or when it's red, he changes colors with the background.
Bruh.
Oh.
It's a very technical show from beginning to end. His shows are super planned out. No one else does it. He tuts, does liquid, does dials, he conjures, he impacts, and then plans it all with the background lighting. And it's a pretty in-depth show, but no one else does this.
I like the idea of the environment. Yeah, I like that idea that he incorporated the environment as well, because you don't necessarily have that control in like a venue, but sometimes the everything that happens all around you, like at a rave or at a festival, adds to the show in some fashion. Sometimes you hit, sometimes you get a miss. But I do remember having a couple shows from like Karma and being at a what was it? I think it was not Dream State, but the other one that's huge on trance. I can never remember the name of it. It's not Beyond Wonderland, I know that for sure. But I remember like the lights and stuff perfectly lined up with what he was doing in his Impact show, and it just elevated everything for me. Well, all right, I think that covers everything, right? We got everybody?
Yeah. Yep, pretty much covered. I think we got everything.
Yeah, I was just very impressed to see what you threw, because it was just like, oh, he actually put some like dancers and tutters in here.
All right, shall I go next?
Yes, you're the last one, and all right.
Steamed Peter, aka
Steamed... What?
Steamed Peter, aka
What? No,
AKA,
what?
You know what? Redacted, aka Steamed Comey, and this is my 3x3. So on the top down, I also did it like foundations, current, and then learning, and then from left to right, I categorize them based on glovers, dancers, and fiction, because since I've started all three of these things have been important to like how I look at gloving. In fact, if I put an actual like honorable mention now, it would probably be Gummy. Like watching that, not just like the Gummy show, but just like other shows that he was throwing around that time. He was doing a lot of stuff with like character work and like theatrics. And when I first saw those videos, I remember the first thing that I thought when I got my gloves was like, I want to do like a Legend of Zelda show. And like I was like, how would I represent like Link walking through a forest? So I'd be like, have a little green light over here, and then I would just have trees just like over here. So like that's just always on the level that I've kind of thought about it. So if we start from the top, the Glover that probably influenced my foundations the most is probably Team Vivid Turtle. Especially at his peak, he was really known for like kind of that wave tut flow tech style. But he always did it in a way that just aesthetically inspired me. I would say he was like the first Glover where I started to like watch and realize like the differences in like style. It's like the first time you like get into like the electronic music scene, it's all foreign to you, so it all kind of sounds like EDM, right? But like as you actually get into it, you start to realize like the nuances in genre, right? And he's like kind of the first like people where I saw his shows and I was like, that's a style that I really like and I want to take from that. The video that this is a part of is something on this somewhat of an obscure channel called Flow Concept. It's the last video that was ever posted on there, and it's between 2 points. And I don't know, it's a great video. I like it. So around that time, if we go over to the next section, there's this dance group called Yankee Pseudo. So in high school, right around when I got into gloving, I was also part of this like dance group that was like a tribute to this dance group, and we would basically like do their dances and perform at like high school like show talent shows. We won like first and second place that year, but like we basically, to do that, we had to practice like every Friday, and we would sleep over each other's houses to get like the choreography right. And one of the big things that this kind of like time in my life like really taught me about like dancing was really understanding just like basic body mechanics, like being aware of like different parts of your body and when you should be like stressing certain parts, how you should be focusing on like specific muscles like your chest, your core, your back, And also just like understanding what it means to like go to the music and have musicality. So yeah, there it is. So in
I
terms
would
of
even say I enjoyed watching this just to compile the videos together for this 3x3. I thoroughly enjoyed watching Gekin Sudo. That was just a delight to me.
yeah, dude, it's great. I would love to do more stuff like that with gloving in person. But it's about doing something like that takes a lot of coordination, not in just terms of like dancing, but just in terms of like finding the time to practice with people and doing it consistently. But it's a goal of mine, so hopefully we can get there one day. In terms of the fiction section around that time, so this is when I first started really getting into film and like going out of my way to like find movies. And I was really inspired by like gun fu genre. So like this is hard boiled. And just a lot of what I take from this specifically is kind of like the setup of scenes, like kind of like the inciting incident, like rising action, climax, like falling action, resolution. Like you see here, like kind of the way they choreograph their action, like the use of slow motion, the way they not only shoot their guns but also pose, and like the way they like bring their choreography about. It definitely inspired a lot of my like theatrics and my narrative components, the way that I frame my body, not just having a traditional like gloving pose, but like actually like having your body in specific poses to like bring out more of your concepts. Yeah. And I would also say like it's influenced a lot of like my project videos as well. Like if you watch some of my Fable stuff, like this movie is what I drew a lot of like the gun choreography off of. So yeah. Going on to current influences. I put Puppet there. Puppet, very theatrical, very showmanship like. I don't want to really get too much into that aspect of it because it's pretty obvious. But what I do want to focus on is his attention to detail on the back end. For example, kind of like what Dustin was talking about, he specifically crops a little bit off the top and bottom to kind of give it more of that cinematic look, right? He was always very intentional with the sets that he used, his outfits, and even doing simple things like choosing what background lighting to have, having those, I think they're chains just like in the background and the way that he framed them. Like little details like that really add to the overall atmosphere, right? And also, I think that one thing that he does better than anyone that I've seen is the way that he really incorporates like the theme of the show like into like the concepts that he's throwing. Like if I was to give like an honorable mention in that spot, it would be Puppet with the Pokemon video. Do you guys remember that one?
Yeah, that's the nice one.
So if we hop on over, current influences that I'm looking at are Ryoga. I mean, Ryoga, like, you know, finger stylist, so there's like a lot of obvious overlap. I'm not going to really talk about too much of the front end here again, because that's not really what I focus on when I look at Ryoga's style. What I look on is a lot more of the back end. For example, one thing that I really look at when I see especially like his battle videos is the way he uses the rest of his body. I put this video here specifically because he's battling Nick Sector, and what I've noticed between a lot of battles between Western and Eastern like style, like finger styles, is that I feel like the West takes a lot more from like all styles, right? And they do a lot more of like this melting pot, where Eastern styles, like they are a lot more traditionalist and they're very, very careful about what elements they take from other styles, right? So if you look at Ryoga's battles, especially here and the one he did versus TuT, TuT has a lot more, he controls a lot more of the battlefield. But with Ryoga, like, he will move his body, but he's very intentional. Like, he'll take a couple steps here, and then he'll slide his feet a little bit, and he'll take a step back. But it's so intentionally placed that it gives it both a smooth and a robotic look at the same time. And also, the way that he is in battle, like, he'll look straight into the eyes of his opponents, and he'll just give, like, a very calm smile. It's very controlled, and very, it's controlled, yet you can tell there's like a warrior energy behind those eyes. So that's a lot of what I've been looking at, like in terms of him. Around that time too, like, and if we go to the fiction section, you know, we're all nerds here. You know, I love anime, but like the way that I really took from this time was the way that anime like animated just things, like character movements, like explosions, like water. And I really try to incorporate this into my aesthetic, and as well as my my sets. Like, so for example, this one set that I showed Dustin when we were hanging out was like a set where on Excel the base strobe pattern was like a high white, medium yellow, and a low red. And when I had the Excel threshold extremely high, so you literally had to be like punching like your opponent, your viewer, to get this like just like glaring red strobe pattern.
Oh, is this the one on the OSMs?
Yeah, yeah. And I call it
yeah.
I call it Saitama Serious Punch. Like, so like it just, a lot of this time I was focusing on like ways of adapting like animation, because like what theatrics as a gloving concept is to me is taking actions from real life and recreating them and also exaggerating them. We can talk a little bit more about that when we go to like Pop and John, but if we go back to the last row, these are like things that I'm currently looking at for inspiration. So I put Juddy here. Juddy's a newer Glover, but he has a dance background, and he also has a background in like music just in general. And it's just interesting to see because on several levels, one, like just on the immediate, having that dancing background, just his shows are inherently like more different. He has like a much more theatric style than I've seen other Glovers do, and I've always just really enjoyed that. His gloving concepts also, like, they're technical, but they like what I would consider more like new gen. He does like some stuff with scales, he does stuff with 45s, and like the way he presents them, just to me, like when I was watching that show, like watching his shows for the first time a while ago, made me realize like how much of like newer stuff that I was kind of missing out on. And it's kind of what sparked my interest to like look out for like newer Glovers, because it's like, it's not like I wasn't looking out for newer stuff, it's just like I didn't know who to look for, and this kind of like sparked that interest. And finally, his use of strobe patterns and LED animation, you can especially see it in the way that he teleports, I think is pretty inspiring, so that's why he's there. In terms of the dancing category, I put Pop and John. Just as a liquid dancer, and as Popper, and as a animation dancer, he just has inspired me a lot to like incorporate the rest of my body, especially since it gives you a lot more musicality options. I know a lot of Glovers will, on the immediate, like just ignore like certain parts of like traditional musicality, get like Glover's musicality because we're working on such a smaller scale, but using the rest of your body opens up a lot more. And also, you know, just looking at body mechanics, going back to like Genki Sudo, like it kind of helped me understand like which parts I should be focusing on and how I should be manipulating them. I spent a lot of quarantine like looking at his tutorials and like trying to do one a week, and I didn't get to finish it, but I got like halfway through, and it still has helped a lot with my overall style. And it leads me to my final section, which is like, you know, again with fiction, specifically I've been looking a lot more with robots. I feel like because of the way I look at gloving, you know, Steamboy like has always been specifically a persona that is somewhat like separate from like me as a person. So I've been looking at like a lot of like just the way that things are animated robotically. So, you know, looking at stuff like Akira, looking at stuff like Ghost in the Shell, and watching like a lot of like mads like on like YouTube, and just seeing like compilations of like robots like just doing their thing. So it's something that I definitely want to like do more of, because like I definitely like to see, like, for example, if you look at it here, like engines will just not only spin with gears and stuff, but they'll also like expand and like crackle and do all these like little like subtle things that like really bring it to life. Again, bringing my point of like theatrics being like a recreation and exaggeration of like real life elements. So yeah, that's my 3x3.
I think the thing that I thought was very interesting seeing the robots one was the idea of how animation portrays animatronics. You know, you see the stuttering and the glitching. That's very indicative that you see in any animation style out there, especially in the greater dance community. But the thing that I really like about like animation when it comes to portraying not only robotic mechanics but organic mechanics that you see from human behavior and things, and you actually see that in a lot of the representation that you put for your 3x3. You actually see like a massive difference between organic and mechanical, and how to try to incorporate both is what I was taking away from that, because you gotta have a little bit of both so you see change things up. But yeah,
I would definitely say like the more organic parts I took from like animation effects, like the way that characters like carry their body like in like certain scenes, right? So yeah, I'm glad you picked up on that.
Well, the other thing I'll say about like the animation effects part of it is what people need to kind of remember is the way that they're portrayed in the animation sequence. They're to give more weight to the substance that are happening. So like with One Punch Man, you know, like they crank their arm really far back, and it's like that whole zoom out thing that you see with like certain cameras that can happen, but it's drawn out, and it literally looks like it's a much harder swing, and that's on purpose to give that kind of weight, and that's to compensate with being a 2D image type thing. So
right,
it's actually really cool when you are incorporating that in real life to show how that can be utilized with gloving.
Yeah, I remember I had this conversation with someone a while ago that unlike other like kind of like flow adjacent like arts, right? Our prop is not like dictated by physics, right? So when I tell people, you know, we should be looking at other flow arts like Poi and the way that they do their pedals so that we can do our flails, I tell them like the advantage that we have as glovers is that we're not dictated by physics. So you can kind of create your own sense of physics and gravity to give it more of a stylistic weight to it. So
well, the thing is, I would say as well is that and I think this is starting to become more in the public conscious, right? Is understanding this a scaling effect of like, okay, instead of having a full scale stage like actors and playwrights and opera performances have, you have to scale that to the field of between you and your viewer. And I think people are starting to understand how to incorporate those mechanics and scale it down to that. And that's where I think where you're incorporating that bending of the perceptual reality, you know what I mean, to give that extra sense of weight of when you're doing these movements coming from the background to the foreground. Like and I think that's probably what would be interesting to see platforming take, is that kind of emphasis even harder.
Yeah, I think so. Like the way that I described it to a buddy of mine a couple weeks ago when we were hanging out is that he's like a newer glover, and he's not really like a part of like the online scene or anything like that. So I was telling him that like the way that you should be thinking about it is like if you're sitting in a movie theater and like you have different types of shots where like you have some shots that are close-ups, you know, but then you have shots that are like beautiful like landscapes, and like you should be taking account into the fact that like because your perception generally is like from here to here, you can still take advantage of all of that, because when they're right in your face, you can get those a lot easier, you know? Like you can like manipulate that perception a lot easier. It's just a matter of like the way you frame your body in comparison to your viewer.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's something that people can take film language and, you know, filmography and actually watch how certain movies are filmed in certain ways. Like, I know this might be divisive, I don't really care, it's just a good example. Look at Michael Bay films. You know, he angles his shots in ways that allow most of the action to be captured without having to do jump cuts. But he also uses his jump cuts to his advantage for emphasis in certain areas. You know, just look at the Transformers series for those examples. It's, you know, it's really interesting to see that. And, you know, maybe that's another topic that we can actually talk on, is like how to use film language when it comes to recording shows, because of that angling effect and things of that nature.
Yeah, I agree. That would be a really cool topic. It would be really cool to get Psych on here for that one.
Yeah, I definitely would want to do that. But yeah, is there any other things you guys want to say about the 3x3s? Is there any, highlights you guys want to point out that you guys thought was interesting from any of the other ones?
I think just overall, like, it was just cool looking at everyone's like stuff, just like to see where it explains a lot, and it was just fun to talk about. Like, I had a good time.
I like the different ways everyone had their
Agreed.
own perspective and interpretation of the idea too. Like everyone had their own different reasonings. It wasn't all the same.
Yeah, and again, that's why I said I feel like Josh really pushed the envelope on what I was asking for and went above and beyond what I was asking for, and that was great, because that's something I would want to encourage other glovers to start thinking about, is looking outside of what you see in gloving that you want to bring in. Papa even explained it very well when it came to him understanding his platforming. He's like, how do I want to create this animation? Like, he wanted to bring a jellyfish effect into it. If he wanted to bring any form of weight when it comes to water style looks and aesthetics when it comes to liquid and things of that nature. So I just thought it was really, really cool to see that. Not only that, you actually are like, okay, here are my foundationals, here are my currents, and here's what I'm going towards, but I also break it from like 3 different aspects of what I look into. So that was really, really cool.
Thanks, man.
No, I did think it was interesting that... Go ahead, McKinley.
I don't know. I was just saying, very smart, very clever. That's it.
Yeah. I did think it was interesting how you and Dustin had the same puppet video, and me and Dustin also put BMO in the same like bottom bracket.
If anything,
category.
that showcases the overlap. Because
Yeah, I mean, Dustin and I geek over the same things, so it's like
I bet you Josh loses his shit during animations where like he knows the fight is about to get real because they have to downgrade the animation a lot so the FPS is better, right? So it gets all fucking derpy, like 27 or 270p, and then when they punch the ground, it turns into squares.
yeah, literally, like,
You know what I'm talking about. They punch so hard that it turns
I-
into the blocks.
it's just funny because literally, like, Haley will like make jokes about that, like, look, I'm Josh talking about movies. Wow, look how they did that shot. Look how they changed the FPS in that shot. I'm like, leave me alone.
I love Haley's gloving impression of Josh because it's actually good.
It's the best ironic gloving I've ever seen.
It's the best ironic gloving. Like one day.
I mean, that's why I think I'm hoping a lot more people watch this episode, just because this was a lot of fun. I so glad that we actually pulled this off and we got it all compiled together, and I actually my presentation of this would be really cool. I don't know, I would definitely like to see anybody from the gloving community, especially more of the well-known established glovers in the community, like Jess, Starlight, Teddy, Trump,
Seaway.
I mean,
I know Seaway's gonna do it now that I said his name. He's gonna do it.
I mean, it'd be really, really cool to see what Long would put. You know, somebody who comes from the Vietnam area and actually seeing where their influences really come from. Even if it's outside of gloving, I would love to see that. So hopefully, if any of you guys from those areas are watching, come on, compile it together. We want to see that. It'd be really cool.
Throw us a bone.
It could even be like a yearly challenge in a sense. I feel like the 3x3 might even change after like a point in time,
Oh yeah, I definitely would say
It's
that
like,
the
this
3x3 is not set in stone in that fashion. You literally just take it and you craft just like how Josh did. Like, this is what made up my idea of like what influences me, and I can definitely see where Josh pulls a lot of those inspirations from, even if it's just small little elements of aesthetics. Like, I can see it. Other than that, is there anything else you guys want to say? Is there any topics you guys want to say that we might work on for our next episode? Do you guys want to jump on, or leave that as a surprise?
I know in the chat you said that you wanted to maybe talk about gloving technology the next episode, and I think that's good because
Mhm.
we could also get into like the current state of like companies because some of y'all slacking.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we have a good amount of things that are coming out right now. There's a definite
True.
shift happening within the community.
There's a
I
shift
definitely want
happening.
to talk about it. I know it's not as publicly accessible right now, but it's something I definitely would love to talk about. Is like the vortexes, even talking about accelerometers coming into play, just talking about the different microlights, the different flash patterns that came out. Just like how everything really exploded within a short period of time. Would be really
Right,
cool to talk
because
about.
like, you know, I feel like we're just in a weird transitional period. It's just weird because you can never get anything off of futuristic lights. And LED Gloves, their website is like trying to get anything done at the DMV. It's just not gonna happen in like any sort of like efficient manner. Like that website's just destroyed right now.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't want to lose any companies. Like when we lost Orbit Light
Yeah,
Shows, that
exactly.
was a huge hit to the community because they
Oh, yeah.
were a very long-standing member of the community. Like when we lost Liquid Emotions and OMG Lights and Candy Lights and things like that, like that was kind of scary because it was just like there's not as many vendors out there.
Right, and I don't want to live in a world where the only place where we can get gloves is GlowFX.
Ooh, shots fired.
Oh my god.
That being said, I do. You know what? I mean, I make jokes, but I do want to try their glove set because I've actually never seen anyone own a set of GlowFX lights, and from what I hear, they're actually pretty reasonably priced. They could end up being like the best, like, just like, what's the word I'm looking
Budget.
Like
for? I was gonna say
60,
like, I was gonna wait. There's, oh, they are.
60, 70, yeah, so I don't know about
Oh, I heard they
No.
were like $30. No,
they were.
they were $30. All right, yeah, I'm not getting a set.
Inflation.
I was
The
gonna
only
say.
thing.
I was gonna say with that price, like, yeah, that's a pretty good burner set, you know. Like, but $65.
I mean, well, I don't even know what the cheapest set is right now, but I'm pretty sure we'll find out.
I couldn't tell you.
Easy light? No, well, I mean,
Find out in the next
Yeah,
episode.
it depends.
you know?
Subjective.
They're 80
Subjective.
bucks, I'm sorry.
They're
80 bucks.
Yeah.
We'll talk
I think
about it
they're
next
just
time.
Like, hey, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it next time.
But other than that, I
Save your
think,
grievances for next episode.
right? Hold all of your anger and frustration about these companies for the next episode, because I'm pretty sure we'll get into the heated discussions of those. You know.
Absolutely.
But I guess I'll go ahead and just like close this off if you guys are good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Alrighty, well, I would like to thank everybody who has watched this episode. This was a whole lot of fun for us to do. I'm really, really excited to see what our audience has to say about our 3x3s. All the videos will be linked in the description below. I'll have them bracket out for each person's 3x3. The order that they will be placed in is literally from top to bottom, left to right, so that way you guys know which order it is. But yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you guys will actually start showing support to WWG's Ko-Fi. It's there for a reason. We actually want to try to generate some more funding because we want to try to do more giveaways for the community, especially for World Light lovers. So don't hesitate to join us there. The links will be down in the description below. All of the social media stuff's down below. Ko-Fi, usual YouTube spiel, banana hammock, blah blah blah.
Banana hammock. What?
I actually, funny thing is, an episode of Scrubs showed up on TV randomly. I'm just like, man, I haven't seen this show in forever. And it was that episode where he talks about banana hammocks.
Bruh.
But other than that, thank you guys so much, and we'll definitely catch you guys in the next one. Bye!
Goodbye.
Now it's juicy.